There are lots of different methods for solving quadratic equations, and in our last video, you saw how to solve a quadratic equation using completing the square. In this video, we're going to look at how to solve quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. And you get the same answer no matter which method you use. So I'm showing you just a few different ones. So this formula comes from completing the square. So I'm not going to show you how you derive the quadratic formula, but just know that if you were to complete the square on just the general quadratic equation, that is where this formula comes from. But don't worry, I'm not going to make you do it. So this is the quadratic formula. So if you have a quadratic equation and it's written in that general form, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, a is not going to be 0 because if a was 0, it wouldn't be quadratic anymore. You end up with this formula. This is a very important formula, and it is one that you need to know. You will use it often in almost every math class you take. So this one you need to memorize for sure. Okay. Quadratic formula, very important. Okay. And if you are precise and careful with plugging it in and calculating, it's not too bad. It looks a lot worse than it is. Okay. But what you're doing is you're pulling out the pieces from this. So you're going to pull out the A, the B, and the C from your quadratic equation, and we're plugging them in. Okay, so let's look at some examples. So this is solved by using the quadratic formula, gives simplified exact answers. Okay, that means we're not necessarily going to go straight to our calculator to plug the whole thing in. Okay, so here we go. We're first going to look at our equation and figure out what is our A, our B, and our C. So remember, it's ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So the A is here, B, and C. Those are always the coefficients or the constant. So our A value in this one is 1 because there's not a term in front of x squared. Our B value is 6 and our C value is 25. So we can plug into our formulas. I'm going to start by just writing our formula. So x equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now let's plug in. So x equals negative b. So that's going to always be the opposite of your b. So negative 6 plus or minus the square root. Inside my square root, I'm going to square b. So I've got 6 squared minus 4 times a times c. Then it's all one big fraction. So the whole thing needs to be in the numerator. And then in my denominator, I'm going to have 2 times a. So when you're cleaning this up, you want to start by just doing the inside of the square root first. So always start by cleaning this part up first. So 6 squared, okay, we're going to do that first. So that's going to give us 36. Then the minus 4 times 25, we would do that part next. So 100. Okay, and I would start taking it slow, one step at a time. It's going to be 2. And then the more comfortable you get, you can do, a little bit more at a time. But especially when it says give an exact answer, just be careful. So then inside, still working inside that square root, so I'm still trying to clean this part up. Okay, so I'm going to do 36 minus 100. So that's going to give me negative 64. And then over 2. Okay, so I've got the square root cleaned up. Now let's actually take the square root, right? So the square root of 64 Now, I know there's a negative in there, okay? But that negative means I'm going to have an I, all right? That's okay. So the square root of 64 is just 8. So that means that x is going to be negative 6 plus or minus 8i over 2. Now, when you clean these up, you have to be careful because in order to divide by 2, everything has to be divisible by 2, meaning both of those numbers in the numerator. So since I can divide 6 and 8 by 2, I can do that. So that's going to give me negative 3 plus or minus 4i. That would be my final answer. Okay, let's look at one more. All right, so this one's not set equal to 0, so that just means that we have to do that first. So I'm going to move that negative 5 over, and now I've got 2x squared plus 8x plus 5 equals 0. And now I can get my a, which is 2, my b, which is 8, and c, which is 5. In my formula, I'm going to write that out. This is negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And so then we would just plug in. So x equals negative b, so the opposite of b is negative 8, plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. Then we clean it up. So x equals negative 8 plus or minus, all right, inside that square root, so I've got 8 squared, 64, minus 4 times 2 times 5, so 40, all over 2 times 2, which is 4. All right, then if I do 64 minus 40 to finish cleaning up the inside of that square root, I can say now I've got negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 24 over 4. And now I've got to work on cleaning up that square root. So if I were to divide that square root up into perfect squares, I could say that I have negative 8 plus or minus, well, 24, I could write that as square root of 4 times 6. 4, that could come out as the square root of 4, which is 2. So that would be the same thing as 2 square roots of 6 over 4. Now remember, in order to simplify, a number has to go into all of the outside terms. And what I mean by that is, you can't really do anything to that 6. But if it can go into the 8, the 2, and the 4, you can simplify it. So all three of those numbers can be divided by 2. So that would now be a negative 4, that's 1, and that's 2. So my final answer would look like negative 4 plus or minus just 1 square root of 6 over 2. Okay, let's get another one. All right, so this one's set equal to 0, so my A is 3, my B is negative 4, and my C is negative 7. Again, I'm going to write that formula out. Okay, all right, so let's plug it in. So x equals negative b. So since b is negative 4, the opposite of that would be positive 4, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. All right, then we start to clean up the inside. So I've still got 4 plus or minus the square root. Okay, so if we start to clean up the inside of that square root, we've got negative 4 squared. So that's going to give us a positive 16. Then I've got negative 4 times 3 times negative 7. So that's going to become plus 84. And it's all over 6. All right, then we'll keep cleaning up. So then I can do 16 plus 84. So I've got the square root of 100 over 6. And the square root of 100 is 10. Okay, but remember, we always clean our answer up as much as possible. So my square root went away this time. So what that means is I have 4 plus 10 over 6 as one answer, and 4 minus 10 over 6 as one answer. So 14 over 6, which simplifies to 7 over 3. Here's one answer. Then 4 minus 10, so negative 6 over 6, which simplifies negative 1. So those are my two answers.